case that only grows grislier with each discovery.
Rex, hello.
Hi. The interview was very difficult.
What has this job taught you about yourself?
I think it's taught me how to understand people.
What began as a search for one missing woman led to multiple bodies and the capture of Rex Heuermann.
The question everyone keeps asking is, how could you not know?
Gilgo 4 was one of America's longest serial killer cold cases. After 13 years, this bombshell dropped.
It was the person that lived next door.
He was a monster, living a double life.
So much evidence against you. I don't even believe you, and you're my best friend. Convince me. Did you do it?
Is it possible that no family ever suspected that something was off about this guy?
Most mysterious figure is Rex's wife.
The idea that the wife didn't know anything is hard to believe.
Everybody really believe everything they hear?
The year was 2010, and along the shores of Long Island, a quiet horror was about to unfold, shattering the peace of a community.
There's no doubt that the entire nation is completely enthralled and mystified by this case.
It all began with a single, desperate plea for help before things went really bad.
911 system.
These people are flying for killing me.
Do you need the police? No, you stop that, please.
On a chilly May morning, 23-year-old Shannon Gilbert, working as an escort, made a 911 call. Her voice, filled with terror, cut through the early hours. As she made the call, she was at a client's home who she believed was trying to kill her. And as she couldn't contain her fear, she ran, vanishing into the darkness, and that was it, a young woman, simply gone. Her disappearance was a mystery as people started asking, what happened to Shannon in those terrifying moments? The answer at first remained in the ominous silence of the sprawling marshlands, an immediate set-off for a terrifying journey. Then, as the calendar turned to December, a different kind of horror emerged. While searching for Shannon, investigators stumbled upon something unspeakable near Gilgo Beach. Not one, but 4 bodies were discovered, hidden away in the desolate landscape.
Well, that once somebody becomes a serial killer, that takes practice. And practice means there had to be other murders that occurred where they're learning their trade. They're learning how to become serial killers.
These women, soon to be known as the Gilgo 4, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Amber Costello, Megan Waterman, and Melissa Barthelemy, were all petite. And eerily, 3 were wrapped in burlap. It was a discovery that sent a shiver down the spine of the nation into the initial search, but raising far more questions than it answered.
These individuals, they believe that they are not going to get caught.
This wasn't just a missing person case anymore. It was the horrifying signature of a serial killer on Long Island. But who was he, and why these women? The hunt, terrifyingly, had just begun. The initial findings unveiled a pattern, almost as if the killer had a twisted type. Dominic Verone, then Suffolk County Chief of Detectives, noted the striking similarities. Very petite, 5 foot or under, 100 pounds. All the women were in their 20s, and they all worked as online escorts. This was so shocking because this consistent profile was a crucial and terrifying clue that painted a clearer, yet more disturbing picture of the monster they sought. And at that, it caused an obstacle for the women who fit this type. It became a target on their backs they didn't even know existed.
I've gone on dates before. I've never feared for my life. I've never felt the way I did with him. I was scared enough that I had a friend wait in the parking lot to make sure I got to my car okay. Right from the table, I said, I think this is the Gilgo Beach killer. I said, I need you to meet me in the parking lot. I don't feel safe. When I didn't want to go home with him, he was visually agitated. Like, you could tell he was angry that he put all this work in.
Now, this is how it all happened. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, often referred to as the first of the Gilgo 4, disappeared in July 2007, a single mother of 2 from Norwich, Connecticut, who had just started working as an escort to make ends meet and placing ads online. Brainerd's misfortune started happening on July 6th, when her phone buzzed with an ominous contact from a burner cell phone. And over the next 3 days, 16 interactions pulsed between Maureen and this untraceable phone. Maureen's sister, Missy Cann, soon afterwards received a late-night call from Penn Station on July 8th, When Maureen said she'd catch the midnight train, however, Missy never heard from Maureen again. Then, almost 2 years to the day, in July 2009, a 24-year-old Melissa Bartholomew disappeared. She had moved to New York City for a fresh start, dreaming of a career as a hairdresser, but also found herself working as an escort. Her disappearance, mirroring Maureen's, deepened the fear, drawing a clearer and more terrifying line between the victims. It was when it got to this point that the true horror for Melissa's family was yet to come. In the weeks that followed her vanishing, Melissa's 15-year-old sister Amanda began receiving a series of phone calls from Melissa's cell phone. The first came on July 17th.
Before you could remember his voice.
I don't know.
You know, you may be the key.
I know, unfortunately.
Any reason why he called you?
I have no idea. I wish I knew his intentions.
Following each call, the torment grew, culminating in a grotesque confession. The caller told Amanda he had killed Melissa. This was a direct, psychological attack and a cruelty to terrorize, making the killer not just a shadowy figure, but a taunting voice from the abyss. However, that was not all there was to these murder cases. When things got to June 5, 2010, Megan Waterman, a 22-year-old mother from Scarborough, Maine, also working as an escort, was contacted by a freshly activated burner phone. Also, if only she had known, she wouldn't have answered the call. The next day, June 6th, at 1:31 a.m., that same burner phone called again. Fortunately, security video captured Megan leaving a Holiday Inn Express on Long Island around that time. It was the last time anyone saw her alive, a young mother, stolen from her daughter. It was a sad story for Liliana Waterman, who was just 3 years old then. Her raw emotion, years later, was a painful payoff to Megan's story, reminding us of the human cost of these unsolved crimes. Following this, on September 2nd, 2010, Amber Costello, a 27-year-old escort on Long Island, became the next contact from the initial burner phone. The very next day, she left her home to meet a client and she never returned. Her roommate, Dave Schaller, would provide what would become crucial, almost prophetic details. Dave described the client as looking like an ogre and driving a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. On the night Amber vanished, this client offered her a staggering $1,500, 6 times her usual hourly rate. Unknown to her, her life was just bought.
There was this giant who had come to the house.
Dave recalled the man's relentless calls, his persistent persuasion that led Amber to do something she never did, leaving the house without her purse or cell phone to meet with a total stranger. At nearly midnight, Amber stepped out and was never seen again. Dave's vivid account painted the clearest picture yet of a potential suspect, but for years it remained a frustrating puzzle to be solved. As spring 2011 bloomed, the initial desperate search for Shannan Gilbert continued, but the investigation had shifted dramatically. And by May, the horrors of Gilgo Beach had deepened exponentially as police had unearthed 6 more sets of remains in the area, bringing the grim total to 10, including the Gilgo 4. This was an obstacle so bewildering as there were questions if all these murders were connected, or whether there was more than one monster lurking in the shadows, as victim number 5, Jessica Taylor, an escort, also vanished in 2003. Followed by victim number 6, known only as Jane number 6, was later identified as Valerie Mack, an escort missing since 2000. Then, in a truly heartbreaking discovery, number 7 was a toddler girl, and to add to the macabre puzzle, number 8 was an Asian male dressed in women's clothing. Number 9, a female skull, belonged to Karen Vergata, an escort missing since 1996. And finally, number 10, female remains, given the grim nickname Peaches due to a distinct tattoo. This was indeed a case never seen before. In a shocking, tragic discovery, DNA confirmed Peaches was the mother of that toddler. Found 6 miles away, the sheer volume and diversity of victims created a staggering challenge, a labyrinth of death that seemed impossible to navigate. Then, on December 13, 2011, a year and a half after Shannan vanished, Shannan Gilbert's remains were finally found. Yet in a perplexing turn, investigators concluded she wasn't murdered because Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison later said her death was an unfortunate incident. a drowning after running into the marsh. After Shannon's 21-minute 911 call was eventually released, painting a picture of terror and confusion, it led authorities to believe that her death was accidental. While the discovery revealed the truth surrounding Shannon's death, it left a growing question of the Gilgo Beach serial killer hanging, unresolved and more urgent than ever. For nearly a decade after the initial terrifying discoveries, the investigation stalled and the hope for answers dwindled. Families endured agonizing limbo, and the Gilgo Beach murders became a cold and unsolved nightmare. This period of stagnation was a profound obstacle, and the elusiveness of the killer. But then, in February 2022, a flicker of light ignited in the darkness as a new task force, spearheaded by Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison and District Attorney Ray Tierney, took a fresh, determined look at the case. D.A. Tierney's words renewed hope, and 6 weeks later, Rex Heuermann was identified for the first time. How did they achieve what years of investigation could not? Well, the answer lay in the past, critically hidden in plain sight. It was the tip from the past, the detailed description given by Amber Costello's roommate Dave Schaller years prior. The ogre-like man, the first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. These crucial yet long-dormant clues were dusted off and given new life.
This is an individual who's very much living a dual life, a life that he presents to the public and then the life that he keeps hidden from the public.
With this vehicle description, police meticulously reviewed Costello's phone records from 2010, including Schaller's testimony about the client who called incessantly, as they now made more sense. The burner phone clue was the next critical piece of the puzzle. It happened that Maureen, Melissa, Megan, and Amber had all been in contact with these untraceable numbers just before they disappeared. And so, in 2012, with the FBI's help, a geographical location was pointed out. Most of those calls were connected to cell towers within a small, specific area of Massapequa Park, Long Island. Police dubbed it the Box, a couple of blocks within the suburb. This small radius, combined with the ogre-like man and the Chevrolet Avalanche, provided the task force with an unprecedented outside. A prime suspect was finally in sight. His name was Rex Heuermann, an architect and a seemingly ordinary man living in Massapequa Park.
This is cluttered, and we're going to go inch by inch through that house. We're going to get everything.
As investigators dug deeper, the pieces began to lock into place with terrifying precision. And when they eventually looked at Heuermann's personal cell phone records, what they discovered cut them unaware. Heuermann's phone was in the same area as those burner phones when they were used to contact victims. And when the burner phones connected with victims, they were often in Massapequa Park, where Heuermann lived, or in Midtown Manhattan, where his architectural firm was located.
Mitochondrial DNA rather than the traditional DNA that you get from traditional DNA testing.
And that science today is a lot better than it was over 10 years ago.
Certainly in 2010, absolutely.
Following this, the meticulous surveillance paid off in 2023 when Heuermann was observed entering a phone store, making a payment on a burner phone. That was when everything finally took shape. Then came the definitive blow, the irrefutable evidence, when police, tailing Heuermann, recovered a discarded pizza box from a trash can in Midtown Manhattan. The pizza crust yielded a DNA hit, and surprisingly, Heuermann's DNA was consistent with a male hair found in Megan Waterman's body. At this point, the invisible link became undeniable, a scientific confirmation of what their investigative work suggested. And with DNA evidence, coupled with the damning cell phone records, the time for an arrest had come. On July 14, 2023, the quiet suburb of Massapequa Park erupted as Rex Heuermann was taken into custody and was charged with multiple counts of murder in the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. He was also named the prime suspect in the murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, though not yet charged for her death. Even with all the proof pointing him as the killer of those ladies, his attorney, Michael Brown, maintained Heuermann's innocence, stating simply, "He told me he didn't do this." At this moment, Heuermann's attorney seemed to be turning things around even when the pieces of the terrifying case were rapidly falling into place. Afterwards, the search of Heuermann's house spanned 12 days, revealing a chilling glimpse into his alleged secret life. Guns were pulled from the basement, the backyard was dug up, and then a crucial piece of physical evidence, a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, registered to Heuermann at the time of the murders, was recovered from property he owned in South Carolina. The truck, the very vehicle described by Dave Schaller years ago, was a stark, tangible payoff to that long-ago clue. Rex Heuermann seemed to lead a conventional life, but police believe his wife, Asa Ellerup, would take their children to visit her family in Iceland during the summers, creating a horrifying opportunity to kill. It was during these very trips that authorities alleged that Heuermann committed these unspeakable acts. And the idea that a monster could live among them, in plain sight, was a complete shock to everyone.
It's been quiet, never really bothers anybody. We're kind of shocked, to tell you the truth.
In all of this, would you believe that Heuermann pleaded not guilty to the initial charges, even while he was arraigned in Suffolk County Court and held without bail and awaiting trial in a Suffolk County jail? Well, for the families of Amber, Melissa, and Megan, Heuermann's arrest offered a long-awaited sense of peace, though the pain of their loss remained.
Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
The investigation, however, did not stop there, as it spread to South Carolina and Las Vegas, where Heuermann owned additional properties, prompting detectives in those areas to take a fresh look at cases of missing women. While Heuermann has not been charged in any additional investigations beyond Long Island, the ripple effects of his arrest were wide-reaching, a continuous set-off of new inquiries. And as for the other bodies found near Gilgo Beach, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Karen Brigada, Peaches, the toddler girl, and the Asian male, none of them had been linked to Heuermann yet. Then, the scientific evidence solidified when prosecutors announced on September 27, 2023, that DNA from a cheek swab taken from Heuermann definitively matched the DNA from the pizza crust, which had initially linked him to Megan Waterman.
We have a lot of pieces that when put together, I think they tell a story, and that certainly is a key piece.
Even though his lawyer disputed its significance, the evidence mounted. Subsequently, the shocking revelations continued into 2024, that on January 16, 6 months after his initial arrest, Rex Heuermann was indicted in the death of a fourth alleged victim, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Investigators connected her murder to Heuermann through DNA from a female hair found in the buckle of a belt used to bind her. This hair, with an astonishing 8 trillion to 1 probability, matched either Heuermann's wife, Asa Ellerup, or his daughter Victoria. While Heuermann has not been charged in any additional investigations beyond Long Island, the ripple effects of his arrest were wide-reaching, a continuous set-off of new inquiries. Soon after, prosecutors made it clear they believed all hair transfers were made from Heuermann to his alleged victims, emphasizing that his family was out of town during the murders of the Gilgo Beach Four. It was when it got to this point that things were finally linking all of the original Gilgo Four to the suspect. Shockingly, Heuermann pleaded not guilty again. The story wasn't over. On June 6, 2024, the horror deepened yet again as Heuermann was charged with killing 2 more women, their deaths separated by a decade, Sandra Castilla in 1993 and Jessica Taylor in 2003. Castilla's death hadn't even been previously tied to the Gilgo case, making this an expansion of the timeline. But even as the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office cited DNA from hair found near their remains and pickup truck evidence as the crucial links, Heuermann again pleaded not guilty to all charges. However, just before the year ended, on December 17, 2024, Heuermann was charged with a 7th killing, Valerie Mack, the 24-year-old from New Jersey, previously known only as Jane Doe No. 6. Her partial remains were found in Manorville, Long Island in 2000, and more of her remains surfaced on Gilgo Beach over a decade later. The investigation, initially a search for one, had become a relentless pursuit of a man, now accused of a monstrous string of killings, spanning decades, and the very secrets buried beneath the sands of Gilgo Beach were slowly coming to light. Each new charge, a shocking payoff to years of unanswered prayers and relentless police work. And the question remains, how many more dark chapters are waiting to be uncovered? If you like this video, Kindly like and subscribe to this channel. Your support encourages us to give out more videos like this. Until next time, thank you for watching.